Good afternoon. Welcome to European Entrepreneurship and Innovation at Stanford Engineering School. Today is Monday, March 5th. My name is Burton Lee. I'm the course instructor. Today, the topic of our session is the state of tech in Europe. We're very privileged to have two speakers who are going to be presenting some really interesting data analysis, data collected for the year 2017, 2016, and prior years in Europe on the state of startup and scale-up deals, venture capital financing, and mergers and acquisitions activity by European corporations of startups. So our two speakers today are Marco Marinucci, who is from Silicon Valley / Italy, founder and CEO of MindTheBridge, and a longtime friend, going back many years here in the Valley, formerly of Google also, and Gené Teare, who is head of content at Crunchbase from South Africa and Silicon Valley. So you're our first South African to present here. Thank you both very much for coming. And as I mentioned today, we'll be focusing, this is our second session on pan-European trends. Our prior sessions, with the exception of last time, February 26th, was on specific countries and regions of Europe. So these two sessions, February 26th and today, are covering pan-European trends in Europe and issues. We'd like to thank our industry partner this year, 2018, MindTheBridge, for your financial support for the speaker series. Thank you, Marco and Alberto. Would like to remind you that European Innovation Day is being held on September 11 here in the Valley, sponsored by MindTheBridge. It's a very interesting conference, probably the major Europe Silicon Valley conference here, where major policymakers from the European Commission come here for several days, major European corporates along with startups to talk about how to engage with Silicon Valley and how Silicon Valley can engage with Europe. So there's always a lot happening in Europe. We can't cover all of it. But this past Saturday was a very sad day in Bratislava, where two people were buried who were murdered last week. One of them, Jan, was a journalist reporting on corruption in Slovakia. He and his fiancée were murdered last week, and so there was a big protest demonstration in Slovakia against corruption. This is the first time a journalist has been murdered in Slovakia in a case like this. This is an important issue to highlight, the issue of corruption in emerging economies and in innovation ecosystems. We generally don't talk about it much here in Silicon Valley or in the United States because it's not such an endemic problem as it is in other parts of the world. Back in 2016, the European Parliament commissioned a study to try and understand how large the corruption problem is in Europe. They commissioned RAND, which is based in Santa Monica, California. And RAND determined, their estimate was that the impact on the gross domestic product of the European Union could be as much as 990 billion euros a year. So that is money that is not going to support the underfunded public universities in Europe, for example, which is a big issue. So this corruption culture system is a big drain on the national and regional innovation ecosystems, not just in Central Eastern Europe, but all across Europe. It's a bigger problem the further east you go, but it's also a problem in other ecosystems in Latin America, Africa, and Asia. We don't talk about it enough here in Silicon Valley because in many ways we're not perfect, but we are blessed not to have a problem of this magnitude such as other countries have. Another important thing to recognize today is the 65th anniversary of the death of Stalin. Now, what does Stalin have to do with entrepreneurship? Well, those of you who may have lived in Eastern Europe in the Soviet bloc during the 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s may recall that in most Eastern European countries, entrepreneurship or ownership of any private enterprise was forbidden by law. Not every single country, but in most of them. So this is a huge cloud under which many Eastern European countries are coming out from under. And to see what's happening in Estonia, Lithuania, Romania, many of these countries, we've seen some great examples. Slovenia, for example, which was Tito, that was Yugoslavia, not former Soviet. This is a huge cultural battle that these countries have to face coming out from former Soviet rule. And so today, these are the broader political trends, political contexts in which these ecosystems have to operate, which again, I don't think we fully appreciate here in Silicon Valley or the United States as much. On a brighter note, Google at the Technical University of Munich about 3 weeks ago signed a major agreement, partnership agreement to collaborate on artificial intelligence. So Technical University of Munich is the top computer science department in Germany. Globally, it is ranked, however, only number 40. So this is an extremely important partnership, not only for Bavaria, but for Germany as well, to raise the level of computer science research, especially around AI. And finally, I'd just like to point out something I stumbled across last week. So Index Ventures, which is based in London and here and has partners scattered across Europe, has some very interesting documents which are very worthwhile for European founders to download and take a look at, one of which is this document called Rewarding Talent. It's a handbook as to how European founders should structure and can structure their stock options. Stock options are a very important part of attracting talent here. You go to the indexventures.com website or just Google it. It's a PDF free for download, and I highly recommend you take a look at it because many of the legal systems, tax systems in European countries are not very well suited for structuring stock options for startup employees.